Welcome, everyone. It's another episode of Bottom of the Third with Kirk Buckner, Jack Moore, Gill Florentino. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Doing great. Gil, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing amazing, man. Extremely happy to do another episode. And again, much appreciate doing this with you guys. It's an honor for me.
Well, everyone's doing their predictions, but I thought we'd do something a little bit different rather than sort of like go through every team and say where they're going to finish and who's going to do what. We just have a bit of fun with this. So Gil and I have come up with 10 different predictions, which could really be anything. Mine are sort of like all across the board. I did one earlier this year for football. I did pretty good. The ones I got wrong, boy, did I get wrong. But c'est la vie. Let's see what we got. Gil, I'm going to let you start. What's your first prediction?
Oh, the Pittsburgh Pirates will win the Central.
I like that.
Jack, any take on that?
I've been looking at a lot of these things on analysis, and this PACOTA, it's an acronym for this way of making these predictions. They've got Pittsburgh, according to this, coming in second. By a little bit. They got the Cubs actually ranked number one, but I've been listening to prediction guys all over the place, and they're different. But they are saying not only Skeens, they got a back end of the rotation. They got some rotation. I love Pittsburgh, and again, I just talked about this the other day about doing the show with Hurdle. He said one thing: you get people in Pittsburgh fired up, and they see some light at the end of the tunnel. The year in 2013 when he was manager of the year, it's like, man, they're every game. They're rocking the place. They got that great stadium. So I think that's the thing. If they get into July and they've got a lot of energy, I think they could ride it. And I think you're right. I think they very well could win it.
Yeah, I think that the Cubs losing one of their sluggers, and I think that one of the Suzuki getting hurt and the WBC, that's going to affect the Cubs to begin with. And I think that they're probably going to have a slow start.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that will depend on how good O'Neal Cruz is or decides to be. Major talent. His head doesn't always seem to be there, but when he's focused, he's a top 10 player. And if he plays like I think he can, watch out.
Well, you see what he did in the World Baseball Classic, right?
Absolutely.
He got 5 at-bats and he got 2 home runs out of the 5 at-bats.
So that's something that you and I talk about all the time, Gil. That is not only an individual guy. And I think that might be something that's lost in baseball now. I heard a guy say years ago, the reason that Torrey became a great manager with the Yankees after mixed reviews with the Braves and Cardinals and Mets is he won Derek Jeter. Like he won over Jeter. Jeter ran the locker room. And I think when you're talking about players that have these moments that look less than mature, who's around them? Because Albert Pujols well, and you've told me, Pujols ran the clubhouse. Fair? He's going to run the clubhouse. And you're going to answer to him. And there's going to be some guys. So maybe that's what's been lacking around him is some people that have told him the expectations not being met. Don't you agree? I think that's a cultural thing within a team.
Oh, no question. I think that's a leadership issue. I mean, you take a hold of the clubhouse. I mean, the guy was never a problem in the Dominican Republic team.
Right, right.
And even in with the Licey Tigers in the Dominican Republic, it's never been an issue. I think sometimes organizations, they deflect the accountability piece to the players, but that needs to be state of a cultural fit. I'm not going to have personally participate in an organization that doesn't have a leadership. That a few years ago, that I heard for some players when they were competing in the summer and they had 10 games over 500 and they decided to dismantle the team. What does it say to the players that were in the clubhouse, busting their behind to try to get some wins, some games? So the organizations now, I feel that they're doing the best to make profit rather than put in a good product in the field. And I think that those some players at times, when you don't have a clear goal and clear expectations and clear things in the clubhouse, then that's when you have people fall off the wagon.
I like it. So I'll give my first prediction, and I'm just going to start right here in my current hometown of Seattle. Cal Raleigh does not repeat what he did in 2025. He had 60 home runs, 124 RBIs, and a 6 slugging percentage of 589. He's going to go back to 2024 numbers. You just talked about O'Neal Cruz having 2 home runs in the World Baseball Classic. Cal Raleigh had no hits, and he was benched for Will Smith. He's going to finish, I predict, under 40 home runs and a slugging percentage well under 500. Now, Seattle's built a lot of great players around him. I think a lot of people, when I'm looking at the other predictions, well, we got Cal Raleigh and he's going to do this. No, he's going to go backwards. He's not going to repeat.
I think there's good money on that. And actually, some of the things I reviewed for the show, other commentators, that's a big one. And I heard one commentator say he'll hit 35, and then somebody responded, nah, he's better than that. But I think historically, too, I don't remember the exact number, but, and it's a different era, for God's sake. It's over 60 years. Oh, at Maris hit the 61. I think he hit 33 the next year, or 30. It's the likelihood you're going to line it up and hit 60, unless you're Judge. I mean, I think Judge is a guaranteed 55 a year. I think that's just what he's going to do because he's that guy. But yeah, the likelihood that things are going to line for him to hit 50 plus again is highly unlikely. But he'll be good. And 40's good. I mean, if he knocks it around 40, hey, that's a hell of a production season.
Absolutely. But it's not going to be an MVP year, type year.
No, probably not.
Gil, do you want to do the second one?
Sure. I'll say Junior Caminero or Roman Anthony will be first and second in MVP category.
You just took my 3 and 4. But yeah.
I think Junior Caminero or Roman Anthony, either one of those two guys will finish 1 and 2 in the MVP voting. I think that Roman Anthony is at the young age, is extremely well player. It's a great round player. He has it to him. And I think Junior Caminero probably has the fastest bat speed I've seen in maybe the last 25 years.
And only 22 years old. That was my third prediction, that Junior Caminero is going to finish in the top 3 in MVP voting, maybe win it all. And a lot of people aren't even that familiar with him because he plays in Tampa. And they're going to be this year.
Right. They're back home, correct? They're back in the stadium this year.
One quick story about that. Junior Caminero played in Game 7 in winter league for the Escogido Lions 2 years ago versus the Licey Tigers. Came back in the 9th inning and tied the game with a double with the bases loaded, and then came up in the following inning, hit a walk-off home run over 500 feet to decide the series. And since then, the guy hasn't stopped. If you saw him taking cuts in the WBC, you saw last year how he went about his business. Even though in a year that they had a lot of uncertain things and they were playing in a different ballpark, they didn't have it really home. I think that they're going to go back this year to their stadium, and I think that that's going to provide for him an opportunity to not only have more home runs, but to probably have more doubles than he had the season before.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm definitely hearing about MVP. I was listening to a guy today, and it was like pretty much it's Ohtani and it's Judge, National League, American League. That's what it's going to be, unless one of them gets injured, most likely. And one of them brought up, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, what if he has the kind of season he might have, but can he could have a huge year and even get a greater degree of progression in numbers and still be dwarfed by Judge in the home runs or something like that. And then the other one I'll throw in, I'll get you guys' take on this. They're talking about the possibility, could Witt ever be like a 40-40 guy? Could Witt knock on the door? I mean, he's definitely, when I see in the last 5 years, when I see a lot of them list top players in the game, he's always at 1 or 2. He's somewhere near the top of that. But and we know how it is. We talked about this historically. When you've won MVPs and then you kind of put up the same kind of seasons, you become that guy, and then it's like you're the MVP unless otherwise. So I do think that Judge would probably be the front runner, but you're bringing up some great names. He's a 22-year-old kid hitting 52 home runs. He's interesting for sure. My
only issue with Judge this year is that for the previous couple of years, he has had somebody that can actually hit behind him or in front of him. I think that if I was a manager, my strategy against the Yankees would be very simple. Let everybody else beat you, put Aaron Judge.
Yeah, and that could very well do it to him. Yeah, you're right. If you don't have the right kind of people. That was the thing I was going to ask you too, Kirk, when you brought up Cal Raleigh. Like, is there some movement in the lineup where he might not have as much protection? Have been some players lost or anything? I really don't know the answer.
They only lost Eugenio Suarez, but he wasn't batting behind him. So
right.
I think for Seattle too, just to talk about what Kirk's prediction was about Riley, right? I think that team is going to go as far as Julio Rodriguez takes him. What are you going to have? You're going to have the Julio Rodriguez that hits 34 home runs or 35, still 30 bases and hit 290, and play a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, or you're going to get the guy who's going to hit 22 home runs. And I mean, I think that at the end of the day, they're going to need him to perform like the far tool player that he can be. And Riley is going to see a lot less pitches, and people are going to go right ahead and try to go to his weakness. But I'm with Gert. I don't think he's going to do that well. However, 35 home runs from the catcher position, hit about 275, and driving 100 runs. I take that all day, every day. And with the team, if I know Dan Wilson and if I know Manny Acta, and that they're returning as manager and coach, I know those guys will get the best out of their players, and I think Seattle will repeat to win their division.
Oh yeah, I still think they can win the division. I just think that I've been reading just over and over, like Cal's going to do this again. No, he's not. And if he does, great. I mean, it would make me happy to see it, but history tells me a different story.
And some of it's just like I said earlier. It's like the law of averages. I mean, when you go that crazy into that level of production in a season, again, what's the likelihood you're going to repeat? And I'm just looking up. He's actually a Virginia guy. He's 29 years old, born in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Went to Florida State. So he's 29. It's not like the game's a mystery to him. I was going to kind of look exactly what the age is. He's got 5 years of service in, going into his 6th year. And that was a huge, he went 227, 30, 34, 60. So it wasn't like it kind of folded into, it looked like he was a projected 30 home run guy. So yeah, it seems like an anomaly. It seems like it came out of left field. And if he goes and hits 40, it's a tremendous season. And I get into the question of, now that they have more information on him, they know more about how to pitch him. Do they know his weaknesses better? But with all the analytics and all the really the information equipment they have now to attack hitters, I think they're probably going to pitch him different. I think they're going to probably attack him different. So he's going to probably, with no change in the lineup, he'll probably see a little bit of the same stuff. But again, he kind of identified himself as the problem. And like Gill was saying, don't let Judge beat you. Don't let him beat you.
Okay. So here's another prediction that I have. The Athletics, or as I call them, the Triple A's, since that's where they play in a AAA ballpark, they're going to challenge for a playoff spot. Unlike we've seen them from year to year, where they've always got to go into selling mode either during the season or at the end of the season, they didn't have to do that because they don't have anyone who's about to leave for free agency. They've got a lot of young players that I absolutely love. Shea Langoliers, Denzel Clark, what a glove he has. Rooker, Kurtz, Muncy, Butler, Severino. I mean, they were actually buyers for the first time. I think I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but in the last week of the season, in late September, they're still going to be in a position to challenge for it.
I don't think there's a better team in the American League Central anyway. The West, in the West, I don't think there's a better team in the West other than Seattle. Mm-hmm. I think they probably win the first. I think they'll probably be a wild card, the first wild card, because of the American League East. They're going to beat up on one another pretty good. Baltimore's going to be better. Gunnar Henderson didn't have the season that he normally would have had the year before. I think Baltimore's going to be better. The Blue Jays have gotten better. The Yankees are going to get Garrett Cole back, that in a short series that can beat anybody. They brought Bellinger back. They got Trent Grisham. So the American League East is going to beat up on one another pretty good, to the point that perhaps, I don't know, maybe borderline the Red Sox will miss the playoffs. And that will give an advantage to the Athletics to come in as the first wild card. I don't think
guys maybe
good. I don't think the Warriors good.
I'm sorry, Gil. One of the things I heard, though, about this whole American League East, and I agree with you, historically, they would definitely beat up on each other. But, back in 61, when they expanded and they went from 154 to 162, the old 154 schedule was neat and tidy. There were 7 other teams. Everybody was 8 teams in the league, and you played 22 times, 11 at home, 11 away. The road trips were all set up. When they went to 162 games, it got a little bit more messy. And now that they've gone to the interleague play as a standard, it's gotten messy. And I was listening to a commentator say that there's less of the interdivisional play. Like it's just structured different. So the Red Sox, Yankees, Toronto, Baltimore are not having to play. It's not as clean as it used to be, where the vast majority, because when they went to the 162 with the 24 teams, you played everybody in your division 18 times. You played everybody in the other half because it was only two halves, East and West. You played them 12 times. It was 6 on the road, 6 at home. Well, now with, you're playing, so you're still trying to jam it into a 162 game season. There were some people predicting that, and I know this is a stretch, it's possible the East could have 4 teams win 90 games. That's a huge stretch. And that's not what the projections are saying necessarily from the math people, but those are 4 really good teams. But I agree with you. If there's enough beating up, Gill, it might allow an A's team to kind of slip in the back door. And another thing I heard about the A's is they had the 4th highest slugging percentage in Major League Baseball last year.
No, they have a team. They have a great young team. And I got to tell you, as a compliment to their organization, the scouting department has been probably one of the best in the last 30 years. Think about all the players that came out through the A's organization, the farm system, from the days of Tim Hudson and Barry Zito. Those guys are always had quality players that when they are sellers in the middle of the season, that everybody going to want to get those young players. A lot of talent has come to the farm system for the A's. And now they have an opportunity. They have not been selling their young players. All their young players, 4 or 5 guys that they have on their control for the next 4 or 5 years, that they are extremely talented players and that they performing. Severino is still at $10 million. The year before he won, I think, 9 games. He only made $4 million. I saw him throw 100, 101 in the WBC. He's healthy for the first time in 4 years. And a lot of people forget this guy, the first 3 years in the major leagues was about 60 and 12. So he's back. He looks very good. He looks in a little bit better shape. So, and he's probably their 3rd option in the rotation. So they have a back end of the rotation. The middle of the rotation looks good, specifically in that division outside of Seattle. The Angels are probably going to lose 100 games. You got the Rangers, they're not the same, and they kind of had somewhat fall off the map since they won the World Series.
Gill, do you have another prediction for us?
Yes, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings. Believe it or not, I believe that either Francisco Lindor is going to get traded or something else is going to have to be done with him, the relationship between him and Juan Soto. I'm not going to say Juan Soto is going to get traded, but Lindor is definitely getting traded before the All-Star game.
I've heard the same rumblings too. Clearly they're not getting along, and the Mets, which always seems to have a problem no matter who's on their roster. Sometimes you just have to cut bait with somebody and see what they get. But yeah, I think you're probably right. And I think it's probably going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah. And I think I go back to the conversation we had earlier in the show about the leadership position. This is what the game of baseball has become. You had 2 teams last year playing in the minor league parks, right?
Yep.
We got now organizations hiring college coaches to coach in the major leagues. You got people like Willie Randall. There's still somebody can't tell me why the guy can't get a job when he was fired after winning 88 games in the year before 90 games. Can somebody tell me why Ozzie Guillen still doesn't have a job when he took 2 different teams to the playoff and won a World Series as a coach? There's a lot to be desired. Buck Showalter is still out there. He can manage. Madden's still out there that he can manage. Won a World Series, been to multiple World Series. This is the reason why I'm saying that the old school people are losing faith in the clubhouse and in the leadership position at the managerial level as far as people managing in the game, because it's just the culture is not the same.
I think something else, when I was doing a show with someone there, that I don't want to throw names out on this, but I don't know that he'd care. Well, one of the things, I'll back up and tell you this part. I was talking to Tom House one time. He was talking about the end of his career, and he goes, yep, my last year in the majors was 30-31. And he goes, you know what pushed me out? And I was like, he's starting to lose a little bit. Nah, that's pretty much the same guy I'd been for the last 5 years. But now they could get a 24-year-old to do for minimum major league salary what I could do for what now I had to be paid. And now the what I have to be paid is so high. This is why there's so much of a turnover rate, and so you don't, where I'm going with this is the day of the wily veteran bench guy that kind of kept the clubhouse together. Well, he's making $11 million a year now. So teams are like, yeah, Jimmy's a good guy and he's a good 250 hitter and we can plug him in a couple of infield positions. But this is key because now they're running a kid up because the kid's on major league minimum, starting off. And that's 750 now. I can remember when it was 60. I can remember when the major league minimum was $60,000 and now it's $750,000 to minimum. So when you're in that kind of numbers and there's this much movement of players, there's just not the same amount of clubhouse energy. And what Gill was also touching on, I think this is the key thing because I'm old man going through it right now. Everybody's getting so into the analytics that the people that can actually see things, I don't think they're being pushed aside. But if you've been around the game long enough, and I know Gill and I have the same feeling because we're the same guy on this, you can see things. You can just see the way that guy up, see the life on the fastball. Yep. Now the metrics might back that, but we know this. We have organizations that the front office is writing the lineup. They're writing the lineup. They're pulling the guy in the sixth inning when he's got a one hitter because that's what the analytics say, etc. So clearly the guys over 50 at least are looking at the game and like, this ain't the game I grew up with. And this just isn't right. And now the players are also in the training from the time they're in the crib coming forward. They are playing the analytics. They're playing to the numbers. And this is, again, the get off my lawn type of stuff. Kids are getting all bent around about their induced vertical this and they're on. And oh, by the way, that's a cleanup on aisle 6 of the day. I kept saying, I meant to say TrackMan the other night when we did the show, not hit tracks. Hit tracks is another piece of equipment, but it's using radar to basically tell you where the ball is and how it's moving. I think it's interesting stuff. I think it's great, but the kids are missing the strike zone by 9 inches, but coach, it had vertical this and lateral that. And I'm like, yeah, you're not throwing any strikes though. But this is what they're being taught. And it's becoming, as a college coach, it's becoming a thing. What the colleges, where JUCO, junior college, the 4-year schools want to know what are his metrics. They don't even recruit guys now unless they can see the printouts on what their pitches actually do. And I'm looking at it like, hey, we had a guy throw, say, X number of innings, and he had a 2.7 ERA, and he had a low whip, walking hits per inning. He must be pretty good. He's missing bats, but they still, and most of the time the metrics will support that. Then the measurement of the metrics will go, yeah, that's why that guy's good. I get it, but it's got to be tough for scouts now. It's got to be tough because the old guys I know that were really good, they could smell a player or they could just see it and go, yep, that's it. I see it. I see what it is. Now you got a front office person. It's like, we don't like his metrics. We don't like the way certain things look.
So I wanted to tell you, I want to tie this up, and I wanted to kind of, in the days that we were coaching the D1 JUCO.
Right.
So I tied it to this. So each one of our coaches had a role in the team. As much as I played the game, Jack was the guy that made the lineup. Jack was the guy that led our team. My job as a coach, as a bench coach, was to get the guys mentally ready to play.
Absolutely.
You a guy in the clubhouse, there is a guy who's going to tell you, hey, I know something's wrong with you. Let me get the best out of you because mentally you're just not there, regardless of the skill set. And Jack knows, there's obviously people that we coach that we still have a relationship with, that we're going through some family stuff that we're not going to mention that. But again, my job in the clubhouse was to keep those guys level-headed. Give you another example. Mariano Duncan is a good friend of mine, and he was in the 95, 96 Yankees. Luis Sojo was going to be traded. And after spring training, when Derek Jeter was actually, Tony Fernandez got an injury, and then Derek Jeter came, and that's how the reason why Derek Jeter came in the team. You can listen, you can Google the interview that Derek Jeter says Luis Sojo, which was the last guy on the bench, making $2-3 million, was going to get traded. Derek Jeter went to Steinbrenner and said, hey, this is the guy that is helping me. This is the guy that I had the most value in our team for, right? And Derek Jeter became who he became, but he thanked those guys, the Mariano Duncan or the Luis Sojo. You need guys in the clubhouse. And again, math works the same way. If you're paying somebody in excess of $25, $30 million, and there's a guy that is the last man in the bench, or there's a guy, there's a clubhouse guy, and it's going to cost you $10 or $11 million for him to guide that player that is your star player, get them right, mentally prepare, and getting the best of them in the clubhouse, like a la O'Neal Cruz, which I think has an opportunity to be a top 5 player if he hits around the 5 players and the coaches. So that is important, more important than the dollar sign that somebody like that is going to cost you. Last year, you know who people saying the Mets clubhouse was the man? Starling Marte. What is the first thing they do? They let him sign for a minor league deal with somebody else, even though their main guy, Juan Soto, the guy that was signed a $740 or $50 million contract, he is the guy saying, hey, our real captain, the person, the leader of clubhouse, is Starling Marte. So why is he on, right? So the guy was keeping the peace in there between those two guys. Now you're going to be forced to trade Lindor, which is still an extremely great player. You know, he can defensively, he can be good, he can hit, right? So now you're going to have to force to trade that guy simply because you didn't want to have a guy who's actually the peacemaker in the locker room be the guy.
And in a generation ago, I mean, the numbers are relative. You look at inflation rates, you can get into that whole thing. It's like what it was $500,000 30 years ago but when it starts to be like you say, you got a guy that you might have to pay $10 million to keep him in the clubhouse and you let him go. Now you leave these two guys to sort it out and they're not going to. So now you're in a position you got to let a superstar go because you don't have the buffer. And you're saying, I get it. And I get it. But I think this is what the numbers have done. What the players have wrought from like years of pay us, pay us, pay us. I get it. But they're building into the type of salaries that are running the veterans out of the game. I think that's the key thing. They're running the veterans out of the game. And I'll say this real quick on the numbers. This is kind of where this conversation came up. Back when I had Gary and Michael Kadire, Gary Lavelle and Michael Kadire on the other day, it was actually kind of funny that this came up. I said, Tom House had asked me probably at the turn of the century, right around 2000, Jack, how many guys do you think have ever actually played the big leagues? And I'm like, man, I can't think it's been that many. I don't know, less than 20 grand. He goes, 20,000. He goes, yeah, right around 15, 16. Or maybe it was in the mid 90s. But anyway, the funny thing is Michael speaks up and says, I was 18,000. I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, I was literally the 18,000 player in Major League Baseball history. Well, now it's about 24,000. And this is where the clarity came in this. So when I'm talking to Tom in the mid 90s, it's 15. And now it's 24. And Michael breaks in 2001 and he's 18. So when you listen to big league guys, some guys with some time, some age, they'll say it used to be very difficult to get to the big leagues. But if you got there, you stayed. But today, and you see it from the numbers, that going from Michael at 18 to now you've added another 6,000. And we're talking about in the history since 1869. So if it's been that kind of increase, and when I said that, Michael's like, yeah, it's because more and more guys are getting pushed out and they're running younger players up. And you hear a lot of scouts that really know the game. It's not that the talent level isn't insane. It's not that velocity isn't through the roof. It's not that guys can't run and throw and all that. They just don't play the game as well. And they don't play the game as well because they're getting run up fast. Wouldn't you agree with that, Gill? They're getting there too fast sometimes.
Yeah, I think also has something to do how you sign a player when how much you sign a player in the first or second round. It's just too much money.
Yeah,
You can't keep a first rounder. You give him a $10 million signing bonus in AA. Just can't.
Well, they've tried to clean that up with slotting the money and all that, and they're going to drop the draft to 10 rounds. I mean, that's where it's going. It's good. They're making all these budget cuts. They're cutting out the lower minors. Now, what it's going to do is produce more independent baseball opportunities because they got to fill rosters with somebody. But I think we're not far away from maybe A level, like an advanced, what we call now advanced A, and there's a low A. The low A's out, the rookie ball's out, and it's just going to be A, double A, triple A. That's what it's going to be. And everybody's going to have really 3 minor league teams. That's where you're going to have all your wares below the shelf. And then you're just going to have to pull from those guys.
I remember years ago with the Houston Astros organization when, my brother was out there playing. We had a player that we were very close to, Manuel Bueno. He was cut because Jordan Paris was the center fielder. He was a third-round pick or second-round pick. And he was given a lot. He was a Scott Boras player. So Manuel Bueno was cut. And Manuel Bueno, when he was cut, he was in a 17 hitting streak, 17 game hitting streak when he was released.
Wow.
So, so again, they released him because he was the guy that got $26,000 signing bonus versus Jordan Parrish dollar signing bonus. So they're going to keep guys, and they're going to, Jordan Parrish ended up making the Houston Astros. Briefly, he played, so it's going about that as far as, there's going to be a lot less veterans. There's going to be a lot of rosters for those guys. But at the end of the day, those are the guys that might keep your locker room together that actually has out. I mean, but I want to continue with our predictions, but I didn't want to kind of
Yeah, Kirk, what's your next one? What's your next prediction, Kirk?
Just a quick thing, though, just to add on that. I feel like we could have the exact same conversation and just substitute baseball for football and basketball, which is going through the exact same problem.
Absolutely.
Contracts. So my next one is sort of tying in a bit with Gill. I'm predicting a trade also. Tarik Skubal. He will not finish the year as a Tiger.
My predictions too, but we got it. We there.
Okay, yeah. It's also my way of saying I know the Tigers made the playoffs last year, but I'm still not bought in on the Tigers roster at all. Skubal's in his last year of a contract. I just don't see it. I think the Tigers overachieved last year. There's not there's no one other than Skubal on that roster who's a potential Hall of Famer. There's just not. There's some good players, absolutely, but yeah, right after the All-Star game where he pitches for Detroit, he will less than 2 weeks later, he's somewhere else.
Well, I mean, I think that, I also wanted to talk about this because it's important for our audience to know this. How the Shohei Ohtani wasn't able to come up with a contract extension with the Angels, them knowing that he's already notified in 3 weeks before the deadline that he was not going to resign with them. Mm-hmm. How do you lose him for nothing?
Because they're the Angels.
So now the Detroit Tigers, I know they signed Fryman Valdez, which is a workhorse. He's gonna eat up innings and have them 1-2 punch. I'll probably still get him a good position, but I agree with you. I think before the trade deadline, Skubal is gone, and whoever trades for him is going to probably have to make a deal with him, an agreement that he will sign an extension with him. Because if you're the Detroit Tigers, by God, do not lose him for nothing. You have to get something in return.
Right, that's all I've heard out there, kind of in the buzz too. And I just looked up. The Tigers are projected to be basically 84 and 78. That maybe they go a little bit better. Maybe they don't, but I think, that's kind of the conventional wisdom. If on July 1, they're falling out of it, by the end of the month, he's out. And I think you get a great point, Gill. I don't want him for the run if I'm one of these teams. Now, there may be a team, and the Mets were actually mentioned on that today. If the Mets become that team, and they're kind of a big market, they are a big market team, maybe they would say, hey, we'll take him till October. We'll ride him until October, and then at the end of the season, we'll figure it out. And I would think that would be probably the greater likelihood that a team with money, and they're like, okay, this might be the year we're lining up for a championship. Let's go get him. But don't we want him long term? Screw that. Let's just get him. Let's get him. I think now, but who would it be more of a bottom feeder that would even consider him? Like, you're not going to tie into all that. He's got to be in other words, he's got to be the missing piece for somebody. And if he's the missing piece, I agree with you. I would like to do the long-term thing, but I would take him. I would take him until October if it got us in the World Series. If he was the difference maker.
If I was the Yankees, George Lombard Jr. will be gone in a heartbeat if I can get Skubal.
Yeah.
Because the thing about this prospects is that I had a conversation with an agent a couple of days ago. I said, hey, I'm hearing that the Yankees will not offer George Lombard Jr. for Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm like, a lot of people don't realize Tatis is only going to make $24 million a year for the next 7 years.
He's locked.
And you know who's making $24 million in the Yankees? Trent Grisham. You know who's making $32 million in the Yankees? Bellinger. And I think Tatis is a better player than both of them. So George Lombard Jr., I understand his upside, what he was projected to be, but at the end of the day, it's a projection. He can be one of those guys that hit to the majors and don't do that well. He's 2 or 3 years away still to reaching the majors. I want now, specifically if I had Judge on my team, that perhaps have 2 years at that elite level. I want to combine him with Tatis Jr., maybe Skubal and somebody like Garrett Cole, is coming back for an injury this year.
I think one of the things, just make this comment behind the scenes. I won't say who. Let's see how way I can avoid being too. I know somebody who works near a front office, near a front office. I'll just say that. So there's no identifying markers. But anyway, this person said that the take of the team pretty much was if fans show up and we sell seats and we play 500 and we're, operating in the black, we're not losing any money, we're fine. That's kind of like, that was the mentality. And I say that to say, look at Washington. Are they going to be knocking on the door being the worst team in baseball? Right? They're not going to be good. And how many years ago was it? Less than a decade, they won a World Series. Lightning struck, some things aligned. And the point I'm making is I think some organizations will try to pull every decade. All right, the stars have aligned enough for us to make a run. How many teams do we feel like, this is my key point, how many teams do we feel like are going for the World Series every year? Dodgers, Yankees, right?
I don't say the Red Sox anymore.
I wouldn't say that at all. No, they, after unloading everybody after 18, they definitely had a different plan. Whatever it wasn't paying bets. It wasn't keeping some of the people around that, made them that good. So you have to wonder what their thoughts are. But what the point I make, I don't know that there's only a handful of organizations that really are in it every year thinking we're putting it all down to win. So if you slip one, like look at the Giants, not probably the best example, but the Giants run, they won 10, they won 12, they won 14, right? They had that, and they rode Bumgarner pretty good. Buster Posey was their catcher. So they caught some lightning in a bottle. It was a good time. Rangers had a run, then they fell apart. They came back and won a World Series a decade later. That's kind of the history. Well, look at the Marlins. I mean, that's the biggest one of all. They win it new. They dump everybody. They come back and win it again 6 years later. And it's kind of like, hey, every once in a while we put together a team. And some would argue it's a small market versus the big market and all that. But I do think that really does come into the equation, that Skubal will be the guy for somebody that it might be the year. We don't see that window opening again. We better do it. I think they're the ones who are going to be the most desperate to do it.
I'll tell you what, if I'm hearing correctly, there's only 3 teams that have enough
pitch,
enough to do it. But let me tell you this: if he goes to the Blue Jays, might as well just hand him the trophy.
Yeah,
make me very happy.
If they make it to the Blue Jays, if that happens, it's over.
Well, he's put out who he won't. Well, like the very narrow. He said who
the Blue Jays should have won the whole thing last year.
Oh, no doubt. But I'm saying, has Skubal, has he put out there like these are the only teams I'll even consider going to?
I think that they only the teams that can offer him the most and is still competitive. It's going to be the Mets, Blue Jays,
right?
The people that can give him something, right?
Sure.
Those are the only teams that can get something for it and stay competitive. Now, does he want to go to Seattle? Their farm system is pretty good. Does he want to go to the Cardinals, which they loaded with talents, first and second round draft pick? J.J. Will is in there, shortstop, but they're not going to be good for the next couple of years.
No, they're not.
I'm just saying the Mets have some prospects that can still give up, some young players already that made the majors that can be available for trade. The Yankees have George Lombard Jr., which a lot of people are drooling over him. The Blue Jays still have some young players that they can go ahead and get rid of to get him and pay him as well. So, I mean, I'll say my other prediction will be is whoever gets Skubal between the Jays, the Yankees, or even the Mets, because I think the Mets are going to be a lot they're well-rounded and they will be better than last year. That has the potential to make it to the World Series.
That was my other prediction, that the Mets are playoff bound and are a lot better than people think. Because it's easy.
Yeah, some people have winning the East. They have them winning it. Yeah,
I have winning the East too.
I brag on them so much because they always seem to have issue after issue, but they've loaded up a lot of talent. Gill really big on Luis Robert being signed there, I think, or traded there rather. I think very well, and I think they're going to be very aggressive. I think that's where Skubal is going to land. It'll probably be
yeah. I'm thinking, the conversation that I had with a former Met, and executive. A lot of people say, hey, Bo Bichette never played third base. Okay, he was brought in there to play third base for the first month and a half of the season before they found suitors for Francisco Lindor. So they already essentially had their shortstop.
Yep. And Bo had that great bounce back year, which was so good to see, because 2023 was just not.
He still had the injury. You know, it's a lot. A lot of people don't understand when you hurt in the off season. It's different just to doing a rehab and show up healthy to spring training than actually spend the whole season just trying to rehab an injury.
Well, Gil, I know that we've only got 20 more minutes, so let's I'm sure you got a few more for us.
Oh yeah, this is I'll say this: the Dodgers will not win the World Series this year.
That's another one of mine too. Yeah,
I don't think they will win it this year. I think last year they were a little bit exposed in the World Series and in the playoff. The last couple of years they've been great, but a tenth of a second when Rojas got filled of that in second base saved their season. The Jays have a multitude of opportunity to win, and keep in mind that they were missing one of their best players. So I don't think they will win this year. I think that they're going to still probably be, they're either going to be beat up by, somebody in the National League team before the World Series and the NLCS. Is either going to be the Mets with the new addition or the front line starter that they have in Peralta. I think that the Mets are going to be well suited. And again, it's going to still be pending on where Skubal goes, and that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also feel, as weird as it is to say, and yes, they just added Kyle Tucker, like another case of the rich getting richer, but they were vulnerable. And I feel like that aura is almost, even though they just won back-to-back World Series, we've now seen how they can be beat. And it took a lot of luck and some unexpected heroes for them to do so. I see Betts continuing to decline. He's not the same player he was. Freeman's declining.
Yeah, and I think Yamamoto too. Now with another year worth of film on him, they're gonna be. But I think he's still with dominant because he's a dominant pitcher. But I still would think that it will not be the same results. I think Cortana is still gonna hit his home runs. Hitting DH on a regular basis is probably gonna be really good for him. But I agree with you. They're gonna have some holes and they're gonna have fill. I know they got Edwin Diaz, but by the matrix, Edwin Diaz hasn't been really as good as people think. He had lost some of his fastball, and to use the comment that somebody made in the off season to me was good riddance to him. I hope he does well. I know that he's a very good kid. I know his brother's a very good guy that influenced him to go to the Dodgers anyway. But I still think that. Kyle Tucker, you don't know what you're going to get from him. So we'll see. But again, they're still favorites, but I'll say that they will not win the World Series.
I've got
Go ahead.
See,
it does seem a little bit illegitimate, doesn't it? When you were saying about that kind of feel, I wasn't around the 50s to see the Yankees win one after the other, but I think people pretty much thought they were the Yankees. But this whole Dodgers thing, I don't want to say it's a fraud, or maybe I am saying it, but it doesn't feel dominant, does it? Especially after this last one, how close that came.
So we can't blame them for them to make the finances decisions they have made.
Oh, no. I'm not having a problem with that at all.
I know, and I know you don't, but I'm saying to me is for a long time, people call the Yankees the evil empire because they wouldn't sign everything, right? But a lot of people don't realize that's the ROI on it, right? They were the highest payroll, but they were not necessarily making the most profit. They just were more about winning than most of the team back then.
That's true. Yeah.
And, but I still think that the Blue Jays, to me, those Seattle Mariners, they seem more of a working class, a take your lunch bell to work. They seem more like the guy that people will rally around them as opposed to the juggernaut that the Dodgers.
I guess I'm just saying, if you're going to be the Dodgers and you're going to spend the money they've spent and you're going to keep getting into the postseason and you have a moment where if by an eyelash you could have lost the game, then I think people want to pile on like, well, you're not that good. You're not that great. Yeah, you're winning World Series, but God, you're paying for them. And then you don't even do that great when you get there. That's all I'm saying. It's like, we can hate winning team. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, I remember the Steelers of the 70s. Half the country hated them and everybody in Pittsburgh loved them, but they were good. They were good. They beat a couple of Cowboys teams that were great. And, the legacy is that the Steelers were the team of the 70s, but the Cowboys were really good, and they kept hooking up in the Super Bowl. So we have those memories of like dynasties. I just think the Dodgers feels a little bit not tarnished, but I don't think it's been, I'll put it this way, I don't think it's been the most impressive walk through this period. That's all. And do I think they'll probably be back again? Yeah. But do I think they're getting ready to be taken out in the series? Yeah. I think they may even get back, but I don't know. When you get that many stars in the room too, you wonder sometimes. That 2013 Red Sox team, I gotta be the Red Sox guy again. Remember, they were just a bunch of knuckleheads and they go to the World Series and the team hits 115 and Ortiz hits 700. Remember that? I mean, he hits like 700 for the series and they pull it off in 7 games. But they were a group of ragtag, dirty guys that just, kind of got it done. And it worked for a year. It worked for that year, and Ortiz carried them. But yeah, I think it's human nature to not like the Dodgers. But
I've got a statistical prediction. We talked about a 30-30 guy. Last year was a record, 7 30-30 players for the first time. I'm predicting that that's going to be broken this year.
Okay.
I mean, I looked at the 7 players who did it last year. There's no reason that those 7 can't do it again. So it's Soto, right. Jazz Chisholm, Jose Ramirez, Corbin Carroll, Francisco Lindor, PCA, and Julio Rodriguez. There's a lot of other people who can very well do that. Steals are up with the new rules from a year ago.
Yeah.
It's great for the game. I love the stolen base.
And the size of the base, too.
And the size of the base.
Yep.
Thank you. So like that, and there's also less fear. People it's more back into the game. Managers want to do that more. I don't think it's going to be 10, but it's going to be equaled at 7 at the least. But I think it'll be broken.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. I think that Bobby Witt Jr. could be one of the guys that does it this year, and probably be either 8 or 9. I think Ellie De La Cruz has an opportunity to probably do that too as well.
Yeah. Gill, do you have another?
Yes, the Phillies will not make the playoff.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay.
I think the National League East is going to be a lot better. I think the Mets are going to be better. Atlanta Braves are always solid. I think they're going to beat up on one another. And I think, looking at Carl Schwarber, I don't think that he's going to have the season he had last year. Bryce Harper, I don't know if he's 100% healthy. I think that they might struggle coming out the gate, specifically the month of April and May. And that's probably going to be a daunting task to come back.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see whether they can get the same kind of production out of their rotation that they did last year too. So
yeah, Sanchez is a dog, and I think he's doing very well. I saw him in the Classic. His sinker is phenomenal. But I still think that they'll struggle.
Okay. I got another team who I think won't return to the playoffs. Actually, I think they're not even going to make 500. San Diego.
Yeah, that's a good prediction because I think both Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis will be traded as well before the trade deadline. They have to. For what I'm hearing is a lot of financial issues in that team. Since the owner passed away, that the new ownership does not want to keep. They want to get young players from those guys, and I don't think they do that. Losing those 2 guys. Eventually, and also being in the West, right? I mean, I think the National League West is going to be also, the Giants are going to be better. The Dodgers are going to be the Dodgers. So I think that San Diego's so far 3rd in that division.
Yeah. Also,
here's one. Let me ask you guys this. I just want to get your take on it. Do you think Colorado will break the barrier and not lose 100 plus again?
No, I still think they're going to lose 100 games.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because there's some that argue they might even win 65 games this year. But I was just looking at the West after you talked about it. San Diego is projected to be a 500 team. And San Francisco should be a little bit better than them, and Arizona's kind of right behind them. I was looking at Colorado because I find that fascinating, whether they can go out and not lose 100.
I mean, Arizona didn't lose anybody. As a matter of fact, that might be also another one of my prediction was that Ketel Marte was going to be traded. he can be a difference maker in a team too, who's in the cuffs to being great.
Yeah.
Since I believe he's the best second baseman in the game.
Great player. Absolutely. Yeah. Is it 2 years in a row now Colorado's had 100 losses?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, they're going 3 for 3. There's no reason. There's nothing that's really changed on that team.
Yeah, they didn't get better. They're the players that they still haven't rostered. Tovar is probably going to be the best player. I still think that they'll lose 100 games, and maybe they might be threatened for the most losses in the history of the game.
I have to look up to see who's had the most losses in a 3-year period and how close they are to maybe challenging for that.
That is a good question. Now, the modern record was set by the White Sox, right?
Yes.
Here a few years ago.
Yes.
What did they do on both sides of that? Were they?
I don't remember.
Sure, they lost a lot, but
I think the White Sox will be a lot better too this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they probably be 20. That's my other prediction. They'll probably be 25 games, 20 games better than the year before.
Okay, I can see that. I think the culture is also shifting in there too. Going out and signing a big free agent, sort of like with Murakami. Am I getting that right?
By the way, shout out to the owner of the White Sox for enjoying the 14th season cigar company cigars and event. I got the pictures. I'll send it to you guys.
Nice.
I got your answer. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
This is the first thing I've seen. The Philadelphia Phillies have lost the most games over a 3-year span, totaling 1,392. Is that can be possible? The Philadelphia Phillies. Okay, that does. All right. I'm getting it again on another stat thing. It's saying the Philadelphia Phillies, and it's saying have lost the most games by a team playing three. Oh, playing three. They're talking about in history. Okay, it didn't understand the question. Sorry. I thought I was getting. They're talking about the Phillies, teams that have played 3 or more seasons that have the most losses, because they had decades of being the worst team in baseball back years ago, except for the Whiz Kids in 1950. They were notoriously the worst team. So let me see if I can ask a better question. Sorry.
I wanted to, throw out this to our viewers. If you like and subscribe, the top 3 people that do that, we're going to send them samples of 14 Season Cigar Company cigars.
All right. So yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment. We love comments. Even sometimes the bad comments. Some people don't like me, but that's okay.
It's okay. Kirk, not everybody has good taste.
There's that. I've got another prediction, and I kind of feel bad about making it because I really love this player. But I think Houston's got a Jose Altuve problem. He can't play defense anymore. Last year he was in 3 different positions, almost equally: left, second base, and DH. At this point, he's probably better off being a DH, because when he was playing in left field, it was not good. It was certainly not good. His on-base percentage is dropping pretty bad. I'm predicting he's going to bat for the first time in his career under 250. And I hate saying that because that was one of my favorite players.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's a great guy. And, at some point in time, he's declining. He's been in the league for a long time. He's been great for a long time too. So, at some point in time, everybody's career comes to an end. So I think that he's obviously, maybe 1 or 2 years away from being out of the game.
Unfortunately, yeah. And I really didn't want to say that. And if he's playing a full 162 games or 140, whatnot, it's reaching that liability point, which you don't want to be. I'm hoping he can prove me wrong, because sometimes that certainly happens. We've seen players just out of nowhere just come back and have that flash. In basketball, I wrote off Chris Paul so many times, and then he proved me wrong.
Well, I think that, you're not wrong for saying that. I mean, I think that the, playing in multiple positions and, being around, I think he needs to be a full-time DH. But he's a great guy to have in the clubhouse. And I will be in that clubhouse a lot this season. Last year I was invited quite a few times, and I really didn't participate. But I think that this year I will. I will go and talk to the players that I do before a game, stuff like that. I will go and talk to and give them a spiel about making the best out of bad situation.
Do we have time for another prediction, Gill?
Yes, we do. Go ahead. If you want me to give you one. Yeah,
because I've used up all mine, and a lot of ones we've agreed on. So
nobody will hit 50 or more this year.
What?
Whoa. Okay.
What?
I don't think anybody will hit 50 or more.
Really? Now, how many years has it been since somebody didn't? That's a great question. I'm gonna look that up too.
I still think, and here's me projecting what what I think. I know Riley's not gonna do it. I think Judge is a physical specimen. He had an elbow surgery over the off season. Obviously, it didn't show in the World Baseball Classic, but I still think that because of the lack of depth in their lineup, they're gonna pitch around him a lot. I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think Peter Alonso is gonna do it in Baltimore. Um, I don't think behind him he's gonna have Gunnar Henderson in front of him, but I don't think behind him he will have somebody that good. And I don't think as good as Caminero is, I don't think he'll hit 50 in that stadium. He probably hit more doubles, more extra base hits. But I still predict he'll probably hit 40, 45. But I don't think anybody will hit 50 this year.
You know what? It's not that like. Let me ask you guys if you know or what you think on this. What was the last time that no one in Major League Baseball during a season did not hit 50, at least 50? What year do you think it was?
Probably 5 years ago.
It was 2023. You're right. It was 2023.
Oh.
And it said marking a significant year as it was the first time since 2018 that the milestone was not reached. Because in my mind, like growing up, like Foster hit 52 and 77. It was like, wow, that's impossible. And then I guess Cecil Fielder was the next. And then it went to Brady Anderson and all hell broke loose. But, off the top of my head, if you had asked me that, I would have thought, man, when was the last time? But you're right. 2023, nobody did it.
I was going to guess 2020 or 2021 because of the COVID, just to cheat.
And I do have this final cleanup again. I think this is a legitimate list. The team with the most losses over a 3-year period in modern baseball is the Houston Astros.
Oh,
2011 to 2013, 324. And then number 2 is the White Sox, 2022 to 2024. Now I'm trying to remember. I guess the Astros were that bad before the big turn.
Yeah, I know that because John, my little brother, was the only person to make the All-Star team in the Texas League that was not brought up to the major leagues, and that year they lost 110 games.
That's right. Yeah. So they're the ones, though.
You got a bone to pick with them.
Yeah.
Johnny used to, Johnny, God rest his soul. Johnny was he could play multiple positions. He was a speedy guy. He could hit probably 12, 13 home runs. He could play second, short, third, in the outfield. So he made those. He was at the All-Star break in the Texas League. He was leading the league in batting average, and he was the only person in the Texas League that year, which was AA, that did not make the majors, and they lost 110 games. So I remember that.
Okay, I guess this brings everything to a close, unless there's one more prediction that we have. No.
One other thing. Go ahead, Gil.
No. I just want to tell everybody. I still want to collaborate with my partners here in the show. I still want to get some people that had never tried our cigar to try them on. Subscribe, like, and comment. The top 3 people that had the most likes or forward to attack somebody, a friend. We're going to pick the top 3 winners, and I'll send in my cost. I'll ship it to you for free. At the very least, 4 or 5 cigars from our line.
And also, too, if you we're talking about leadership, here's a great book you can get about that very thing by our friend Gill, The Home We Built, a memoir of drive, determination, and leadership. Available on Amazon right now. With that, just a quick aside. As we're recording this, we're a few hours away or removed from the passing of Chuck Norris. R.I.P.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that he didn't die. He just decided that death needed a companion.
God rest his soul.
Yeah. Hey, I was a big, the thing though, I watched the thing today. He sparred on his 86th birthday, which was like last month. And, he's had this whole line of health products and all. The last time I saw him, it was like, man, that guy looks great for 80, whatever. They say this just came up suddenly, but like he literally sparred on his 86th birthday, which I think was in February. And then this happened. So I was shocked. I thought if anybody's going to live to 106, it's going to be Chuck Norris. I mean, I'm a big fan. He's a great man. And I'm not trying to, on the day of his death, but I was really shocked because he was in such great shape and he did take such great care of himself. Yeah. And to hear that he's sparring 1 month and past the next is really, it's really kind of scary, but he was loved by a lot of people. Put it that way. He was definitely loved by a lot of people.
At the very least, he didn't go to any kind of decline.
No.
Sounds like it was quick. It was sudden. I think before I go on my trip, I'm going to rewatch Lone Wolf McQuade. Now the one where he actually drives a truck out of dirt. I don't know how he does it when he's buried underground, but he does it because he's Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
So just
the fight scene with him and Bruce Lee is epic. Have you ever watched? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was big.
There's also he was in a Chinese movie after that, the English version called Slaughter in San Francisco, where he just sort of like plays, he's just the big boss, the token white guy who's sort of like running the crime syndicate there. And yeah, for whatever reason, just him dubbed was even funnier.
Yes.
Godspeed, Chuck.
Love Chuck.
Yeah. So with that, check out everything that we've been talking about today, notinhallofFame.com, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. We've welcomed Bonnie Blair as one of our voters, so I'm very, very happy about that. But there's going to be big news on that at theusahof.com. Very soon, I'm writing all the bios because we're adding commentators for people to vote on. So a special thanks to Upton Bell for helping me pick out the commentators to nominate. And with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.